and gentlemen, we have our first major looking problem with Orla, my 1978 928. I just picked up my Hatch chili peppers here on the 25th, I think, of August, and on the way home, got all kind of smoke, and obviously because oil was spewing out rapidly from somewhere. So I went maybe a quarter mile before getting it shut off. A lot of smoke from under the hood. Oil pressure was not down to zero when I shut it off, so hoping there's nothing terribly bad about it. All the smoke was coming from this left side, so I'm guessing, well, I don't know. I'm hoping it's just it was a gasket that blew out, maybe for the cam box. Anyway, pretty disappointing. We'll have more information later. Welcome back to Discover's Garage. I'm Scott, your host, and as you'll notice, the 928 is up on the lift this morning, and it's not facing the normal direction either. This is early Monday morning, Saturday, on the way home from Hunt Valley Horsepower car show. Just after I turned onto Middletown Road, massive oil cloud appeared behind my car, oil smoke cloud, and so I got off the gas, I slowed down, and then a massive amount of white smoke rolled up from underneath the hood. So I quickly pulled off the road and shut it down. Still had a couple bars showing of pressure, oil pressure showing on the gauge. So I'm hoping nothing dramatic was lost, but this is still one of those jobs that you kind of dread getting into. I got to give a shout out. AAA picked me up, and the guy brought me home, and I was like, look, I've got a lift. I want to fix this. Can you help me? Can you get it on the lift? And he looked, he's like, well, the bed of the tow truck won't fit between the garage door. So he basically made an extension for the runners out of the garage, and with some oomph, was able to push it up onto the runners, the lift runners. So the guy went way beyond what he had to do. So I gave him a decent tip, but just a thought, if this ever happens to you, have some long 2x6s that you can add to your lift bed and extend out of your garage doors so that the tow truck can put it onto those boards and you can roll it into your lift. So I started to crawl under the car once, and directly oil drip fell in my eye. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm going to get some safety glasses or some kind of glasses on before I go under there again. Every indication is that the oil is coming out from the front left area of the engine. So I'm thinking either the oil filter, which doesn't seem very likely because I drove, I don't know, 500 miles since the oil change that I did. Took it all the way out to Columbus, Ohio and back. So I don't think it's that. What I'm afraid it is the oil cooler lines. When I got the car, I went through and I changed oil cooler lines, brake lines, power steering lines, all the flexible fuel lines. And in doing so, had a chip come out of the block because I didn't know you're supposed to counter hold the boss on the block as you undo the hose. And people said, oh, well, you can just JB weld it and put it back together. So anyway, I'm fearing that that's where it's failed. And if so, then I'm guessing I'll have to pull the block out to get in there and repair it. But anyway, we're going to dig in there and we'll see soon, hopefully. Alright, this is just a quick shot to show I've got my light source that I can maneuver around under there. I also have a headlamp on. I've got a whole roll of paper towels and a trash can so I can start cleaning up as I look for, trying to figure out where I also have gloves on my hands because there's going to be a lot of oil to clean up. Too far into this, just a quick shot. You can see it's pretty wet. It's all very wet over here on the left side. The oil pan's fine, which I expected. No, I didn't hit anything. And then over here on the right side, it seems normally dry. So we're going to have to dig around a while. I don't know how it's going to be very obvious. I'm thinking I might end up having to turn it over once or twice once I get it cleaned up to regenerate a couple drops. Well, in just a matter of less than 5 minutes, I think I found the problem. This hose here, this blue oil cooler hose, this whatever clamp thing is no longer attached to it, and I bet you dollars a donut that's where the leak came from, and that makes me pretty happy because I didn't do that. Trying to get a little more comfortable here. I raised the lift high enough so that I can't reach it from the ground, but I can't really sit up either, so I need to. Anyway, yeah. So I'm pretty much certain that's it. Makes me surprisingly happy. Now I know that getting the hose out of there, off of the block, there's a trick. I have to remove the oil hose or the oil filter and counter hold that inner surface thing. I don't know if you can see it. I can't on my camera. But to undo it, that's no big deal. Then can I fix that hose, or do I need to replace it? Let me know. Okay, I'm about to do the repair on. Well, I'm about to remove the oil cooler hose that fell apart right up here, and I'm going to use this 27mm wrench to counter hold that right there, and a 32mm to crack the pipe connection itself loose from that block. So I won't be able to video that while I'm doing it. I'm sure you guys can imagine what that looks like. Now I'm up top. I'm going to do a quick check to see if the oil showed on the dipstick yet. And no, the oil dipstick is dry. Okay, so here I have taken the upper fan shroud off, and I disconnected the upper oil cooler hose, pulled it out of the way so I could get all the way down there to where the lower oil cooler hose was, and got rid of that. Now, this radiator connection is not a 27. I don't have anything between 27 and 32 or whatever, so I used vice grips and a pipe to hold the vice grips tight while I undid this, which was still a 32mm. And if we come around here, we'll see a hose that's now in 2 pieces instead of 1, and that's what happened right here. This crimp is supposed to be over that rubber. So I just need to get the proper orientation, a picture of the proper orientation for this metal piece versus the rubber hose, and take it to a hydraulic shop, which I have identified, and get that recrimped on. Now this was done by Tipco, which I could take it back there, but I need to buy more oil, and I can buy more of the pen grade oil at a shop right next to a shop that'll do this for me, so I'm not going to take it back where they messed it up. Alright, I've got my reassembled hose, hopefully with a nice tight crimp on both ends, and 4 quarts of pen grade oil. Hopefully that's enough oil to replenish what was lost when the previous hose blew. I'm just going to install the hose. Let's see if I can fit. So there's a soft rubber thing that pairs the two hoses together right beside the alternator, and I'm going to see if I can squeeze this clamping nut, whatever, through that rubber. If not, I'll have to cut it and then try to, I don't know, zip tie it or something so it stays tight. It's snug on the hose, so it's going to be a real stretch to get that nut through, so I kind of doubt it's going to work, but we'll give it a go. Alright, I got the hose back installed and tightened up, top and bottom, and I have put in 2 quarts of oil, and we're going to take a look here. So it's at the low mark after adding 2 quarts, so probably another, I'll add another quart and see if that brings it up. I was trying to save the oil in the oil filter, but unfortunately it ended up tipping over inside my catch can here, and so I've got all that oil. The can was not clean, so I can't just use this oil directly, but I think I might put it through an old t-shirt and see if I can clean it out and use it later. Okay, an update on Orlo, the 928. Let's see, I got the lower oil cooler hose repaired, installed, added 3 quarts of oil, which seemed to have filled it up, and so this evening I set this up to catch most of what was going to drip out of it when I washed it. I used 2 cans of degreaser spray from all different angles, waited 10 or so minutes, and then hosed it down with the garden hose. And most of it ran here out, hopefully out, well, out of the garage anyway. It might have gone in at the crack there, but it's just not in the garage and on the garage floor for the most part. So I'm going to let it drip dry here for a while, probably an hour or so, while I take, where's Henry? While I take Henry for a walk. Let me find Henry real quick. See how lazy he's being. I don't know where Henry is. Is he in the? Oh, there he is, getting a Adolf stash. Hi, Henry. Say hi, buddy. All right, I'm starting it very carefully today. I just turned it over 4 or 5 times with the coil wire out and checked, and there was no leaks, and the oil was still high enough. So now I'm gonna just reach in here and turn the car for a second, confirming it's in neutral. Put the key in up here. Alright, so probably heard that little bit of lifter noise at first, but then it quieted down right away. So now we're going to go all the way back around here and take a quick look for any leaks. And I don't see any here at the top or bottom oil cooler hose. Let's slip underneath here real quick. And I don't see any at the oil cooler line. I don't see anything on the oil filter. Looking around. There's the oil. So this relatively dense coupler holds the 2 hoses together, and I just couldn't get the nut on the end through the opening, so I cut the lower portion here, and could then fit the hose through easily enough, and said now that the zip tie's holding it together, I'll do something a little nicer than that thing hanging out. But right now at least that's holding the coupler together, and it looks like we're in good shape. I'll of course start it for a little bit longer. Let's go up top real quick and check the oil. You remember I lost oil out of the filter housing, so that had to get filled up again, and so this should drop some. Let's see how much it drops. So I'm going to slide it down in there, pull it out, and wow, yeah, it dropped quite a bit. So I'm going to add another quart, I guess, of oil to that. Glad I checked, and see where that leaves us.
Say goodbye, Henry.